I'm Stuart Broad, he's Jos Buttler. This episode's all about India. The first test starts on Friday, England versus India, huge series. You've just come back from India, being at the IPL.
We can never quite here, I think, get what it is like to be an Indian cricketer in India. Kohli couldn't walk down the street.
And I turned round and the whole shop door and front was full of people, like completely covered, no way of us getting out. I was like, Fred, quite a big crowd gathering out here. As a bowler, I would probably have a little bit of, if I'm 35 years old and you told me to hit a 14-year-old on the head, I'd be a bit like, Jos, not sure that's the right play.
Why are we getting so scared of a 14-year-old? You know, like...
There's no doubt in my mind he's the best bowler in the world at the moment. He showed that in Australia. The man Baz McCullum calls England's greatest ever white ball cricketer. How's your week been, Jose?
It's been good, thanks. Even had a few people coming up to me telling me they are enjoying the pod, they're liking, they're commenting, even bribed someone with a Kookaburra bat to leave a comment, so I'm one bat down.
Lovely.
But no,
so someone's got one of your bats?
One of my bats, yeah. Said he's got to use it though, so it can't just do anything.
The edges are well knocked in.
Edges are well knocked in. Molly listening?
She's listening, yeah. She's always supportive. Yeah, she always says to me, we're so new to this sort of thing, aren't we? Just learning on the job, making mistakes or whatever. She always said to me, just imagine you're smiling through the microphone. That's what she says to me. That's what she does on the radio. So if you're listening, am I smiling? I feel like I'm smiling. That's my way of smiling. But, we've not been really involved in podcasts before, have we? We're learning on the job. We're just here to talk cricket and we enjoy cricket. So away we go. And thinking about cricket, India coming over. First test starts on Friday. The biggest cricket team in the world by far. You've just come back from India from the IPL. Does this test series, has it been talked about a lot? It's a bit of a rebrand for the side, isn't it?
Yeah, there was a lot of buzz about the series, actually. Obviously, the IPL going on, but a lot of interest in who was going to become India captain. Shubman Gill is now the captain of the side. He was my captain at Gujarat Titans, a really impressive player, impressive young man.
What type of captain is he? Is he quite vocal, or?
I think pretty calm and measured when he speaks. But interesting, I feel like on the field, I think he's got a bit of fight about, a bit of intensity, quite sort of passionate. I think he'll be a mix of your sort of Kohli and Rohit. I think Kohli, that sort of real aggressive, really transformed the Indian team, in your face, up for the contest. Rohit sort of a bit on the other side, a bit more laid back, very cool, calm, collected customer, but with that sort of fight. I feel like from my time knowing Shubman so far, he'll be a bit in the middle. I think he's obviously learnt from those two guys, been around those two guys a bit, but he'll be very much his own man. And what I liked about something as well is he talked about compartmentalising batting and captaining. So when he's batting, he just wants to be a batter, and then he will try and work on his captaincy and try and separate the two roles, which I think, when you're doing such a big job as being captain of the Indian cricket team is, he'll have to try and do that well and have some good people supporting him.
Just to highlight that, when you say what a big job that captain of the the India men's cricket team is, Virat Kohli did it very successfully for a long period of time. He's got 272 million Instagram followers or something. Just shows the intensity around the pressure around that job. Do you think Gill's ready for that? He's such a young guy. Yeah,
I think, I don't think we can quite understand the sort of level of interest and the stardom that these guys have. And you see it around the IPL, you're aware of it, but, actually living that yourself and being that. I think they say the Indian test captain is sort of like the third or fourth most influential person in India, behind like the Prime Minister, etc. So that, you really are put up on that pedestal. 1.5 billion people, all cricket mad. So it's going to be a huge job for him. And like you say, taking over from Rohit Sharma, who has been a brilliant captain, Virat before that. But he seems the coming man. That's the sense I get around India. He's obviously captained 2 seasons of IPL cricket, which is a big pressurised job. And he's sort of the prince. Kohli is the king, Shubman is the prince. That's sort of the narrative that they spin out there. And I feel like he's the coming man. He's been vice-captain to Rohit in the ODI stuff as well, so he'll have learnt off him for that bit. And he'll do it his own way. I think that's what I get. I think he'll take pieces from people. But yeah, I don't think anyone can quite sort of gauge what that pressure and expectation that those guys feel with, and they deal with it incredibly well from what I've seen.
So Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma retired from Test match cricket. Whenever they've toured here, a lot of the talk is about them. A lot of the focus is on them because they're such stars. Who do you see as the stars in this touring team with India now?
Naturally, Shubman becoming the captain, and he's going to, I'm not sure where he'll bat. I think 3 or 4 is probably where he'll bat, and stepping into that number 4 is big shoes, isn't it? Coming behind Virat and Sachin Tendulkar before that as well.
Since 1990, basically, they've had the best batters ever at number 4.
So that's obviously a huge role. But I think the sort of players that I look at would be obviously the captain in Shubman Gill, Rishabh Pant, who I think is a fantastic Test match cricketer, box office cricketer. He's the kind of guy that I'll turn on the TV when he's out there in the middle. I know you've played against him a little bit, but I think he's fantastic. And it's usually batters in India who are sort of, the star names, but I don't think there's any bigger star in that touring squad than Jasprit Bumrah.
There's no doubt in my mind he's the best bowler in the world at the moment. He showed that in Australia. He's going to be pretty dangerous in these conditions, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. And as much as it's the attributes, I think, being out there in India, people are talking about how smart he is as a bowler, the competitiveness and all those things that everyone needs to be a great cricketer, which he certainly is. But yeah, facing him, he creates awkward angles. I think that's what, the run-up is a bit unique. The action is unique. And I think I've seen side-ons. He delivers the ball from about a foot or even a bit more closer to the batsman than the average bowler as well. So the ball feels quicker, I think, even than the pace he's actually bowling at. An amazing wrist, with that action to be able to take the ball away from the right-hander. And
so late, though. Swings it so late.
Yeah, and people talk about that sort of perpendicular sort of... So for me as a right-hander, it always felt like it was coming in, but he could beat me on the outside. Yeah. And you sort of find yourself in a horrible position, squared up and bit of a sitting target. So he's a superstar bowler, and that's what you expect. In international cricket, Test cricket, you're going to come up against great players, and he's certainly someone England will need to play well to have good success.
I always found him, he's such a calm guy, isn't he? And quite laid back in certain periods, but he's got an amazing competitive streak to him. There was that great bit of play in Australia where he got in a scrap in the last over with Constance, I think, the young opening batter, and Khawaja was on strike, and he nicked Khawaja off, got him out, and just was like screaming and roaring. He's definitely got that. Every good fast bowler has to have that emotion in him, but there's a real sharpness to his competitive spirit that he's grown up in that Kohli era, where Kohli sort of requested that from all his players, didn't he? That he was in and competitive, but. Yeah, he's going to be certainly one to watch, and certainly someone that in England won't want to play 5 tests, because if he does, he's going to pick up a shed load of wickets, isn't he?
When did you first see him? What did your initial sort of thoughts about his action, the way he runs up, sort of his strengths that he has, or I'm sure you must always, you and Jimmy would be watching the opposition and the other bowlers.
Yeah, gosh, I mean, he's so unique, isn't he, first of all? But what he does brilliantly, he's got quite a calm run-up, short stride pattern as he runs in, which, you're right, facing him, it's hard to get the rhythm of what's coming, because he jogs in, you're thinking this will be 70 mile an hour, and it hits you at 90. You don't get a real flow, whereas when I faced Shoaib Akhtar, he sprinted in at 100 mile an hour and delivered it at 100 miles an hour, you were ready. But Bumrah's so balanced in his run-up. It's a short stride pattern, so he never gets overstrided and off balance. And when he delivers, his front leg is braced, almost catapults him over. You talk about that bowling arm delivering almost a foot closer to you as a batter. I think that's because his front leg is able to whip him over the top. And because he's so balanced at the crease, that gives him the control. I look at Glenn McGrath, probably had the most balanced delivery stride that I've watched, and Bumrah's the same. He's so balanced, he can tweak his wrist to swing it in and out, just in a movement of a couple of centimetres either way. You don't get huge visuals, do you, when you're facing him, of he throws his front arm out the way to bowl an in-swinger, or he twists his shoulder really far left to bowl an away swinger. It feels like everything's in a flick of the wrist. So,
but is that coming? So, I find that really interesting. How much the rest of your action, and is this stuff that you worked on, I'm sure he was working on, are you always about trying to get this in the best,
get the wrist
position? So everything else you do for your action, to an extent, I suppose, is to get this in the best position
to get the wrist in the best position at delivery, and you're talking a centimetre either way, left or right, affects.
And as
whether
a bowler, are you
in.
so aware of those minutes, and like what it feels like off your fingers, or what does it feel like?
Yeah, definitely. And even take your run up back to the end of it. A little adjustment at the end of your run up, whether that's a foot either side, can completely affect your shoulder position and wrist position at delivery point at the crease. So as a bowler, I was always tweaking different things of run-up angles, where I would deliver the ball. And I think Bumrah does the same. When you watch a spell of him on Friday or Saturday, whenever he bowls first, he will never bowl 7 overs delivering the ball from exactly the same place. He is moving on the crease half a foot, because all he's trying to do is for you to miss the ball or catch the edge. And a tiny movement from him changes your whole angle and your whole positioning from where you are. So he's really clever. He's got amazing attributes in the fact that he's so balanced and he can flick this wrist to swing in, swing out. Unbelievable bouncer, by the way. When he was running into bowl at me, I was just going bouncer, 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 and he'd hit me on the foot. But he's got one that never feels like it sails over your head, does it? It sort of skids at you in that
isn't it?
In that shoulder position that's hard to get out of the way. But I'd say his definite strength is how he swings the ball from a fuller length, but it's still snapped into length. It's not floaty. You never get a floaty half volley. You just go crunch for 4. It's like whipped into length that you feel like you can't quite get forward to, and you end up going half forward. And if it nips back, you're in trouble through the gate, bowling you, or if it swings away, it brings the edge into play. So his biggest thing this tour for England will be fitness. 5 test match series, we know what they're like. Back to back, you get on the bus, you drive to London, you get on the bus, you drive to Manchester, recovering. It will all be to do with his workloads in the test matches. If he can bowl England out or if India's bowling attack can bowl England out for 150, then he's got every chance to play in the next test. If England are getting 450 and they're fielding 140 overs, that's going to really balance what he can do. But I thought a couple of years ago he had those stress fractures. I thought he was going to be in a bit of trouble with the longer format, but Australia, how well he bowled there was really encouraging. And he's probably I think I put him in with Malinga in the category of the most naturally gifted, grab a ball and just go and stick to your unique style. Of course he'll work on technical things, but it looks like he's still bowling with a tennis ball, playing street cricket with his mates or in the back garden, all that sort of thing. So it's great to see that someone so natural can be the best in the world.
So in terms of that, say for kids growing up and stuff, what things, I know you talked about balance at the crease, but like apart from that, so Bumrah's very unique, and imagine if a coach had said, no, you can't bowl like that. We wouldn't have seen one of the most amazing bowlers of all time. So for kids growing up, like how would you encourage them to keep their unique style and whatever feels natural, but with sort of 1 or 2 key points that this is what you need to do to deliver the ball well, and if you run up however way you run up or whatever, that doesn't really matter. I
think tempo is the biggest thing in my run up. And if you could take something from Jasprit Bumrah, because he just trots in. I mean, he probably feels like he's running, but he looks like he's just trotting in.
So those last few steps.
The last few steps, he just increased his pace. But what you don't need to do as a kid to bowl fast is sprint at 100% in, because you won't be balanced, you won't be tall, you won't be able to deliver the ball over the top. It's all about finding your tempo and your optimal speed to hit the crease in a balanced position. So I would probably, if I think back to my run-up, I would be at 80% pace, but I would be thinking about a piece of string on my chest pulling me to the sky and my knees pumping to the sky rather than forwards. Because if they were forwards, my head would go too far forward and I'd be like eager to bowl the ball. I'd be thinking about my running technique of going knees to the sky, string pulling me to the sky. I'm big, I'm tall, I'm going to deliver this ball from as high as I can at the crease. And at 80% pace in my run-up, I would then have the momentum to get through the crease and follow through and deliver the ball. So I think Bumrah is a great example that you don't have to sprint in to bowl really fast, and it's all about that balance and making sure that your wrist is in a good position at the top of the delivery stride.
But if you have a sort of easier, I think of like Jimmy had quite a sort of really easy run up and looked like
a Rolls Royce, Jimmy.
Yeah, does that sort of allow you to bowl longer spells or make you less tired or come back better for spells 2 and 3?
I think as a bowler, you have certain spells or certain overs where you really lift up, and you have certain overs where you might just be in 3rd or 4th gear, controlling the areas you're hitting. An average test match day as a bowler, I think it's 18, 19 Ks that we wear the GPS that you travel. I think in Australia, which is the highest amount of Ks you travel in a test match, it's 52, 53 Ks in a test match week. So we're talking a good chunk of mileage there. There's a lot of movement. So how you can balance that through test match days of having a spell of 4 or 5 overs really fired up, might be bouncers, might be firing in, might be bowling at Joe Root and I need to get you out. And there might be times that the team need to go 2 and over. You just bowl slightly within yourself, holding length, and you have different styles of bowlers in your attack. You have bowlers that Mark Wood, 3 over burst, bang, bang, bang. Jimmy Anderson, he needs to bowl 20 in a day, let him go and cruise through. But I always watch a bowler when a new batter comes to the crease, and that's why it's so difficult to start as a test match batter, because they get a wicket, they've got the emotion of the fired up feeling of getting a wicket, then the fielders are with them, and that bowler for the next 6, 7, 8 balls will be hitting the pitch so much harder, slamming the ball in, the speeds will go up 2 miles an hour. That's why it's so difficult to start in test match cricket as a batter, and bowlers will just find times to ramp it up. I think with me, Athers used to go like, oh, his knees are pumping now, and that would be a deliberate thing for me. There'd be times that I wasn't necessarily feeling great and I wasn't moving the ball, and I'd just hold for a bit, and then there'd be times where I'd get a wicket or I'd strike or I'd fancy it. I'd go, right, come on, give me that ball, I'm going.
I find that an amazing thing to listen to, and obviously I know it happens because I've played, but it's how much of a conscious effort is that and what sort of percentages of, say, effort are you working between there? So and how easy is it to go up and down? Or at times, I always think of you trying to, rev up the crowd, or is that when you feel a moment? Or
that sort of silly arm wave.
But how easy is it for you to go, I'm just going to ramp it up now? Or will you have days where everything feels good and it's smooth and you're like, I can go to another level? Or
definitely that, and they come more often the more experience you get. I think where you have more confidence in your ability of delivering the ball, and the crowd thing for me was a real conscious. That was a tactic that I would use, because once I got the crowd engaged, that added pressure onto me to deliver. I didn't want to get the crowd going and then bowl a long half volley, get hit for 4. It's a bit like, is that it? So if I would get the crowd going, then I'm adding pressure on myself to come and deliver my best possible ball, which would just bring a bit more energy in my feet, knees go a bit higher, focus just sharpens a little bit more for that ball. And it actually became a bit of a trend back end of my career. If I got that crowd engaged, I'd make things happen, because I think that just took me up a little gear. Remember, bowling's a physical thing. It's a thing that can hurt the body a bit. You've got to be in an emotional state to do it. And the crowd definitely helped me. Test match cricket, you don't have the space to go down too much. Every spell's on a speedometer. Every spell's you're being judged. Your teammates are wanting you to come in and charge in and do the job, but also you've got a crowd there, people watching on telly, listening on the radio. They need to see the best of you the whole time. So you're never down at 2nd gear, 3rd gear. You're always hovering around the top. But the difference of going from 90% up to 95, just new batter, bang, up to 95.
So when you're going through those spells, what's the fastest you can bowl when you're fully fired up?
My fastest ever on record, I think, was 95, early 20s at Lord's, one dayer, bit windy. I think the wind makes you feel a bit quicker.
Downhill,
charged in. So that was the fastest I bowled.
And then sort of average, what would you reckon?
Average, at my best, 85. I think mid-30s, I was probably 83-ish would be average. If I got down at 80, 81, I was tired and not doing the job.
And then when we were back to run up, just off 3 paces, what speeds could you get from there?
Nothing. I was all rhythm. I needed momentum. I'm tall and thin. I don't have a lot of like massive core strength or powerful legs. So I needed the flow and the sprint, the charge of my run up to flip me through. I used to do a lot of bowling walking. I got it from goal kickers in rugby. I think I read somewhere that Johnny Wilkinson or someone, maybe Owen Farrell, walked through their kicking action so they could feel every bit of movement of where everything was landing. So I used to bowl walking through, so I could see if my front arm was moving in a wrong direction. I could see where my right arm might tap my shoulder, be nice and straight, aligned. So back end of my career, I did loads of walk through bowling just so I was so aware of my action, but no pace.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to get reps in as well. I think of batters being able to face loads and loads of balls, and then as a bowler, how do you replicate sort of what a batter can do in terms of volume? So
yeah, I mean, if there's young kids listening to this, girls and boys out there who, at a young age as a bowler, you can have bad backs and your bones are under a bit of stress. You're still growing, you're developing. I think low intensity walkthroughs, just bowl to your parents, bowl to a stump, but not really forcing it. Just feel the away swinger, feel the in swinger, practice a slower ball, practice a Yorker, but a really low intensity. It's amazing what you feel in your body of what you think feels good. You find a rhythm with it, and then you can practice your 3, 4, 5 over spells in a net at certain times. But I would do every warm up for me, I would start with walkthroughs.
We've gone off on a bit of a tangent there. We'll get back to India after this break.
Jose, just back from the IPL, a new team. You became the face of Rajasthan Royals for a long period of time. You got bought in last year's auction by the Gujarat Titans. Biggest cricket stadium in the world, I'm right in thinking. How did you find your first season with them?
Really enjoyed it. It was great actually for me to, they say, been with the Royals for a long time. So going to somewhere new, you're a bit unsure of what it's going to be like. But a few familiar faces. Vikram Solanki is director of cricket there, so someone I've known a bit from over here in England, helped me settle in really well. And actually, because I've played, I think 10 seasons of IPL now, there's a lot of movement around the squad. So there's quite a few familiar faces with guys I'd played with before, maybe at Rajasthan Royals or even back at Mumbai Indians, was where I had my first 2 seasons. But huge stadium in Ahmedabad. I actually had quite a cool moment. It was against Sunrisers Hyderabad. Just a midweek game, not massively important in the grand scheme of the tournament at that stage. For us, it was a midweek game, I think. We batted well, and I was walking between the overs, and probably just after the power play. And I don't know if you can remember Ahmedabad, the stands go really far back, and it's like quite bad. And I'm just sort of looking around. I thought, my God, this place is full.
Really?
So there's 90. I think it's about 90,000. It probably holds about 100, 105, something like that. But 90,000 people watching Gujarat Titans versus Sunrisers Hyderabad on a Thursday night or something for a mid-tournament league game, and that's one of those like moments. It kind of hit the sort of the sheer scale of India and the IPL. It's quite cool
that you had that feeling mid-game as well. Quite often you're just so in your process and next ball to get that emotion during a game's great.
Yeah, and I think you weirdly, the more you play in the IPL, you become used to the crowd. It's loud. There's cheerleaders. There's music blaring all the time. Anytime the ball sort of goes out of the ring, even if it's down to third man for a single, there's a huge roar and then a sort of silence as they realise it's not gone for a 4. So you do become a little bit sort of immune to the crowd at times, and it's just there. But yeah, that was sort of one of those real pinch me kind of moments of like, this must be like I'm playing in the Nou Camp basically. 90,000 people here watching. Cool moment, like you say, where you sort of really do take it all in, what you're actually a part of. And the scale and size of the IPL, and I see it only getting bigger and growing more and more, and the popularity becoming even bigger.
Standard wise in the IPL, you think close to international cricket?
Yeah, and I'd say even some teams, would compete. Well, they're just as good as international teams. And if you think, I think the Mumbai Indians 11 had 9 or 10 players who played international cricket. So, and they're not just any old internationals either. So, and obviously the window the IPL has, there's no competition from international cricket or guys who sort of got its own designated window. So all the best players in the world are available. All the local Indian talent where the depth is just growing and growing and growing. And they all have quite amazing scouting systems. Like there's, the stories of how they find a Hardik and Krunal Pandya, or how they find a Jasprit Bumrah, and they sort of pluck people from, these little domestic tournaments that are going on. So there's the IPL, obviously, is the biggest franchise, but then their own states will have their own mini IPL. So in Mumbai, they would have, a 6-team Mumbai tournament, which sort of becomes a bit of a shop window for guys then to get it. So they've got that depth and that volume of player to be able to have those mini tournaments to then sort of go into the main IPL.
Like when I was watching the auction, Rajasthan Royals picked up a 14-year-old kid, and I think everyone around the world was like, "What? 14? Like it's proper like adult cricket." This, But you ended up you were keeping, weren't you, when he scored that incredible IPL 100? Like, talk us through that, because it made news worldwide.
Yeah, it's inspiring and deflating at the same time. So this guy's 20 years younger than me, and he's just smashing us all round the park. But yeah, absolutely, like shockwaves throughout the sort of cricket world. I think a 14-year-old guy getting picked up. That was the story, wasn't it? He was in the auction, the youngest, and Jimmy being the oldest, and the age difference. But he actually hit his first ball for 6 in the IPL. He played 2 or 3 games, I think, before he played against us. So first ball he's ever faced.
Was that over
in the IPL? He sort of gave himself a bit of room and smacked it over wide, long off for 6. And that sort of that fearlessness and and I think a lot of these guys out there now, there's so many brilliant players. They almost want to make a statement, as in, look at me. And whether, I don't know, we have to try and get him on the pod and ask him. But like, how long before that happened did you think, I'm going to try and hit my first ball for 6? Because it was a premeditated. It wasn't just there.
He was backed away.
He looked for it, and then he was sort of born like that. And then the innings against us. Our bowling attack consists of Mohammad Siraj, brilliant international bowler; Prasid Krishna, international bowler; Rashid Khan, best T20 bowler
voted
there
one
is,
of the best ever, wasn't he?
And he just this scale of the sixes, well, they're not just going over the bat, they were big sixes, and 35.
Were they? I mean, you're literally a yard from him. They're big
sixes, and 35 ball 100. It was outrageous. And he actually played an innings a couple of games later against Chennai. I was watching on the TV, and Chennai got Ravi Ashwin, Jadeja, proper seasoned pros, and he was like, bang, hit them out into the stand, and then sort of knock one out to cover, sort of like, I'm so in control, I'll just take one now, trot down the other end. And at that moment, I'm like, this guy's the best player I've ever seen. Like, I'm so blown away by the 100 was incredible, right? It was just like, but he went for it every ball. It was like no fear, just whereas that next, it was like, it's like a seasoned pro, just taking down great bowlers and hitting a 6 when he wanted, getting off strike when he wanted. It was in a run chase as well, so it was like he was calm, just sort of, and but in your the swing meeting, of the bat is, I think,
in your bowlers meeting before he got that 100, what info do you have on him?
He played a couple of games, and he's played. So even at that age, I think he'd played first class cricket at 12, something like that. He's from a very small state in sort of northeast India. I think it's called Bihar. Not many cricketers been produced from there or whatever, but he's even at that age, he's playing first class cricket. I think he scored one of the fastest hundreds for India under 19s against Australia under 19s, I believe, which was maybe just before the auction or after, around that time. So there's a bit of video, people have seen him in this like amazing bat swing, bit like, it's a huge statement, Yuvraj / Lara, this like flowing left-handed swing of the bat. So there's a bit of video and there's a bit of, and it was, but at the same time you're a bit like, why are we getting so scared of a 14-year-old? Like, surely we should be. But yeah, and then he just came out. He just played beautifully. Like, took his chances. A couple flew over third man, as happens in T20 cricket. But I think he's certainly one to watch. I know he's coming to England for the under-19 tour. So he will be opening the batting.
Under-19.
Yeah, so he'll be opening the batting with Ayush Matre, who played for Chennai, 17-year-old. He scored 90-odd against RCB in Bangalore as well. So the boys who get the under-19 bowlers have got a decent opening batting lineup. Yeah.
So you've got a 35 ball 100. There must have been a time you're stood behind the stumps where he's 50 or 60. You're thinking, got to say something to the bowlers here. Like, we've got to change tack. Do you feel a bit nervous going, you've got to try and hit him on the head here or bounce him? Because as a bowler, I would probably have a little bit of, if I'm 35 years old and you told me to hit a 14-year-old on the head, I'd be a bit like, Jos, not sure that's the right play.
Yeah, I think after he'd hit about 5 or 6 sixes, it was like, we've got to do something. He's not scared of us. And there's actually some amazing footage. So Jofra obviously played for the Rajasthan Royals, and everything's recorded out there. No content. They don't miss anything. And he's batting in the nets against Jofra. And I don't know how it all started, whether Joff was sort of like, I'm not going to bounce this guy. He's a young kid. A couple of beautiful shots, and Joff's like, right, it's game on here. And he's bouncing him in the nets and flying over his head. He's trying to take him on and hook him off his nose. And it's just quite incredible to think, like you say, the standard of bowler that he's hitting at that age and stuff. These are international quality bowlers. And as I said, I was thinking, he's 20 years younger than me. Like, is this amazing, or is this the end of my career?
Am I actually watching my career burn in front of me?
At least I'm not a bowler. These guys are like some of the best bowlers in the world, and you're going back to your room going, I've just been whacked everywhere by a 14-year-old. And I remember, I think Mumbai Indians played them after us, and Trent Boult, obviously brilliant international bowler, been around forever, getting, how are you going to plan for Vaibhav Suryavanshi? And he's like, feels a bit strange, like this 14-year-old who we're so scared of and worried about, and I hope I can just bowl well and play him like anyone else. But it'll be fascinating to see his journey.
Be some pressure on him
at that such a young age now to be, the Instagram followers overnight would be go from 10,000 to 2 million, that kind of thing, and everyone wanting a piece of him wherever he goes now. Everyone knows who he is, and we can never quite here, I think, get what it is like to be an Indian cricketer in India. The sort of, you think of, Kohli couldn't walk down the street and just go for a coffee. There would be thousands and thousands of people wanting selfies, harassing it. There's no real privacy like that. I know stories of guys who've played for Chennai and playing with MS Dhoni. They say he just leaves his hotel door room open and encourages people to just come in and sit with him and spend time with him, because he can't go anywhere else. He can't go out and do anything. And when they travel, he's going to have security guards all around. They're walking through the airport. It's like watching this, like, sunglasses on, calm, and then there's just chaos all around him, like people just scrambling just for just to get eyes on him or take a selfie or just any kind of picture. That hero status, and like you mentioned earlier, like the number of Instagram followers that Virat Kohli would have, it's extreme.
I saw it. Freddie Flintoff, I toured, gosh, what would this have been? 2008 maybe, a one-day tour. I was quite new into the side, and we'd landed and Fred had forgotten his flip-flops or something. So he was like, I need to go to the shopping mall. Anyone want to come? So I was like, yeah, I'll come out. Never been to India before. I'd been maybe once in a bowling camp. And we went into the shopping mall, and I think it was a Puma shop or something, grabbed some, and he was looking at the flip-flops away from the door. And I turned round and the whole shop door and front was full of people, like completely covered. No way of us getting out. I was like, Fred, quite a big crowd gathering out here. And then the shop had to close the doors, call the police, like shut the front of the door off and take Fred, and I like hopped in, holding on onto his coattails type thing, out the back and away. He couldn't, that's after the 05 Ashes, I suppose, he couldn't just walk into a shopping mall and get away with it, as I'm sure you can't. And, we see all the matches on the TV, but what do you do outside of the cricket? It's obviously a really busy time, but you're there a long time. You're over 2 months, aren't you? What are you doing outside of actually playing the game and training?
Yeah, so in Ahmedabad, we stayed in a hotel actually just outside the city. Really nice hotel. And to be honest, you don't leave the hotel much, apart from going to the cricket, whether it be training, playing a match or travelling. And there's a few. It is easier for overseas players. So you get noticed and people know who you are, but you can get out for a dinner and you have to take a security liaison officer with you or tell them where you're going, just so if anything does happen or whatever, like you say, they can whip you in a car and get you out of there. But no, I didn't really leave the hotel too much. One thing I thought Ashish Nehra and Vikram Solanki did really well in this new team that I was part of, sort of took over the 8th floor of the whole hotel, and we had a team room where people sort of naturally congregated, table tennis table, snooker or pool. There's sort of a restaurant bit there as well, so that's sort of where everyone congregated and sort of hung out. And outside the cricket, the IPL is a content machine, and like you're busy doing shoots for stuff. All the sponsors, they want time and stuff with
bit of dancing,
people shooting at your feet. That's tend to get me dancing. But recording adverts and videos and doing sort of other stuff. It's not just cricket. People get bought in the auction for big money, but they're not just buying them for the cricket. They're also
buying F1 drivers, isn't it?
They're buying the brand and they're buying the eyes, and then if certain players play for certain teams, the sponsors want to be associated with that team and they want you to push their products, and that's part of some of the stuff you're doing outside of cricket. And my first sort of experience of the IPL I found very difficult. Mumbai Indians, huge franchise, like the Manchester United of the IPL, just found it exhausting. It was busy, it was like loud, it was chaotic, it's so much and I just came away from being able to perform out there is like being able to just handle the chaos. Like you almost got to be that sort of, like I mentioned, that Dhoni figure who's sort of unflustered. Especially as you get into it, you've got to manage your energy a bit and sort of what things can I do to just, whether it be watching things in the room, whether it be, I actually got into Lego. I was like, I can't.
Building Lego,
yeah. I built an F1 car. Like Legos, you do 3+, 5+, 18 plus. It took me a couple of days, but I was like, I found myself in my room, like, what am I going to do? Like, and there's only so much Instagram you can scroll through. I even wrote on a piece of paper, put your phone down, and took a picture of it to put as my screensaver to be like, get off your phone. And my kids came out and they loved playing with Lego, and you see all those like the Hogwarts, build Hogwarts, or Formula One on Amazon. So I bought a Lego Formula One car and sat in the room and just something to do that I was like engaged in something else, because it's so easy to just put the IPL on and watch every match, and you sort of
that's almost tiring.
Can be quite mentally, consuming. Like you sort of get so involved in that, and where are we in the table? There's awards for everything. Who's in the highest run scorers, the leading wicket takers. So I just found that something to do, and managing your time and your energy, because it is a long tournament, and like you say, I think that's sort of whether some people like gaming, or I always think I should learn and do something really valuable with my time, but I ended up.
But you need to peak at the right time ultimately in all these tournaments, whether it's for England or IPL. You got to win the important games at the back end, and that's like they need players like you, fresh and firing in the playoffs, not necessarily game one.
Yeah, that's true, and I think a lot of people talk about it a lot, like peaking at that time the tournament set up really well. So it used to be 8 teams. They brought 2 new teams in 4 years ago now, which is the Gujarat Titans and Lucknow Super Giants. So now it's a 10-team tournament, and it's the top 4 slots go through to the playoffs. So it used to be 4 of 8, now 4 of 10. So it's got an even more competitive tournament to get into that stage. And then I really like the way it's done. So if you get in the top 2, first place second, the winner of that match goes straight to the final. The loser of that game then plays the winner of 3v4.
Yeah. So 3v4, whoever loses, you're out.
Straight knockout.
Yeah.
And then if you lost that first match, you play the winner of that. So you get a double chance to make the final. So it makes the league stages really, every game vital, because everyone's really fighting for that top 2. Because over history, I think it's only been twice has there been a winner from what are we now, 17, 18 seasons in, that have come from that third, fourth game.
Is that right?
Because to win 3 games in a row at that stage against the best team, and the schedule's a bit against you, you sort of play, travel, play, and so it's difficult to do that. So everyone was desperate for that. One of the other like really cool things I find about the IPL is your teams train at the same time. So like on one side of the square, it'd be RCB and we're on the other side. And you can sort of look across and watch, all the other players. And that's something I've always found throughout my own career. I enjoy watching people practice. And, what does he do? How does he do that? What shots do they play? And a lot of the time you see after the matches, lots of mingling between the two teams and people talking, and everyone obviously wants to get a chat with Dhoni and Kohli and sort of pick their brains. What can I do? How do I become the best player in the world? And so we were talking about IPL hundreds before. So I had that one season in 2022. I scored 860.
Mentioning this
runs.
Again?
Yeah, we'll do a whole episode on it if you want. So, but he's got the record for most runs in a season, 970 odd, which is phenomenal. And I actually found the next season quite difficult because I was like, how do I live up to that? And we were training at the same time as RCB, and I've played against Virat a lot. Obviously, he's a huge competitor on the field, and you sort of feel like he has aggro with everyone. But I just thought, I want to ask him a couple of questions. Like he just finished batting, he was sort of on his own. I thought, why not? I'll just go over and ask him. And the question sort of was about, how do you manage expectation? How there's more expectation on him than anyone in world cricket. Like 1.5 billion people all wanting to see you score runs. And he was so generous with his time, so helpful about maybe that was just that one season where it's the best season you've ever had, and you just have to accept that and don't try and replicate it and don't try and thing. And even when you feel the pressure that's all on your own, that you're putting it on, it's okay and life's going to be fine, it's going to work out. And then he was sort of talking about some of the sort of insecurities he sometimes has, more about his own game and sort of how he practices, and you're like, this is arguably the best player of our generation, and especially in the white ball formats and ODI cricket, etc. And sort of I just remember coming away from it being so sort of thankful for his time and grateful for his insights, and also like amazed by the knowledge that he had of my own game and sort of what might work, and also just like he's human as well, right? Like he has the same kind of, he says sometimes I pick up the bat and I just feel like I don't know how to play, and you're like, well, I feel that quite a lot, so if he feels that, that's okay. And I just think that is one of the brilliant things about the IPL, is getting to rub shoulders, and it's like the best cricket academy in the world. You can play with and against all these guys, pick up little snippets here, there and everywhere. And it might not be about white ball cricket, it might be someone could play with AB de Villiers and start talking about test cricket or something that you do, and it helps you 6 months, 12 months down the line. So that is one reason I also believe the Indian players are going from the levels they're getting to are just getting better and better and better, because they are part of the most incredible cricket academy.
Laithwaites are proud partners of For the Love of Cricket.
Official wine partners, yeah?
That's the one. They love cricket, so do we, so they're on board.
Have you still got your wine collection with Laithwaites?
Funny you should say that, actually, Jose. Beyond the Wicket, a series of wines by Stuart Broad with a lovely little signature underneath. But yeah, my love of wine grew throughout my cricket career, Australia, New Zealand. Maybe we should have the old podcast where we open a glass. What are you, rosé, white, red?
I'd say white, but I do enjoy a glass of red, cold, roast dinner, fire on, that kind of vibe.
I've had a bit of an idea. We're going to do special episodes with Laithwaites, purely based on questions from the listeners. And through that, we'll create our own little case of wine, For the Love of Cricket case, available exclusively at laithwaites.co.uk.
Sounds great. I'll tell you what we'll do. 3 reds for you, for the Test cricket fans, and 3 whites for me, for the white ball purists.
So pour yourself a glass, settle in, and join us for the love of cricket with a good bottle of wine from Laithwaites. I feel like I should know this, but how many IPL hundreds have you scored?
I've scored 7.
7?
7 IPL
Sorry,
hundreds.
I didn't mean to sound so surprised. Sorry, I'll redo that.
Good.
7, wow, brilliant. Is the noise just outrageous?
Yes and no. For an overseas player, it's different to a local Indian player. Think of Kohli scoring so many hundreds. When he scores 100, the place it'd be like a One Direction come out on stage and the whole place just goes absolutely bonkers. So I can't say for me it was at that level, but for me, I actually scored my first T20 in the IPL, and then I had a season where I scored 400s in one season, which is sort of that period of your batting where you're
just
like,
peaking.
This is the best I can play. And I remember going to 100 at it was the Wankhede Stadium, and actually decent. I was on 99, decent Yorker, dug out to long on, and I sort of like jogged the first one because I sort of knew I was getting to 100, but then I was like, that's actually a 2, so we quickly sprint back for a 2, and I can hear the crowd sort of, it's building and it's loud. They've realised I've scored 100, and as I've scored 100, I'm running through, and I sort of do this jump and like punch of my fist, and I sort of remember coming back down to hit the ground and hearing another like roar of the sort of like celebrating your celebration. So that's sort of the feeling that you get. It's different. I don't think you can. It's a different feeling you get to playing for your country, like scoring 100 for your country. But that sort of occasion, and I'd encourage anyone who ever gets a chance to go and see an IPL game to sort of pick up the energy and the noise and the sort of atmosphere that they create. And then when you play against India in India, and nothing's for you. If you're doing well, it's silent. Whereas actually when you're playing for an Indian franchise, they are supporting you and they're wanting you to do well. So getting those sort of milestone moments, they are really on the back of you. And it sort of, makes you feel absolutely amazing.
Do you have a chant? Do you have like a song that's for you?
Well, hopefully it can. I've sort of picked up the name Jos the Boss in India. Boss. So that's sort of.
Is that what you want me to call you on this podcast?
Yeah, certainly for the India episode, I'm Jos the Boss.
Jos the Boss.
But all the stadiums have an MC, so they have like a guy whipping the crowd up and getting them going. And so, say I'm batting and I've hit a 4, I'm going well. It'd be like, "Come on, everybody, start shouting, Jos the Boss, Jos the..." So the bowler's running up and he's trying to get the whole stadium going, Jos the Boss. And you feel it, and you feel it. And but on the other side of that, I find playing at Mumbai is a really loud stadium, and their announcer, and it's, we talked about Bumrah earlier. And so he's like doing that shuffle in, ready to, and you're facing it. The whole place is going, boom, boom, rah, boom, boom, and it's like this crescendo to when he bowls the ball, and it's.
So you've got to work hard, not for your brain to think about. But
he's running up, and I'm like, God, this is loud. It's getting louder. He's getting closer, and it's like, and you've got to manage those moments about like dealing with the chaos and the expectation, and that's high level cricket, isn't it?
Yeah.
Trying to manage what's going on around it, and the noise that they can create. The only other thing, I've been to a Taylor Swift concert when she finished a song and the noise was deafening. That's the only thing I can think of that's louder than IPL stadiums. Right, so we're back next Tuesday.
Every Tuesday, Jose.
For the love of cricket.